I know what it's like to be on death's door. I know what it's like to be with people who's on death's door. I know what it's like to, when you were saying about burnout and keeping a balance. So I know what it's like to have a mental breakdown. I know what it's like to be in a psychological ward. As an artist, be true to yourself. If you don't get what you're looking for, if you don't get the answer to that puzzle, what you get is experience, not a failure. So if you look at it like that, it's very different.
You might get a puzzle for something else.
Oh,
right?
totally. No, this thing, I have loads of them. When people come to me about a problem, usually I know the answer, not because I know the answer, because I made a mistake. The making is, that's the easy bit. The secret sauce is creating a space that people feel comfortable to create. Once you've done that, that's the secret sauce. Because if you don't have that, you can teach anybody to do it, but it doesn't bring it to the next level. But it's those people who bring it to the next. They just don't realize it. It's them, it's not me.
Welcome, Paul. Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
We've done a few retakes, but that's what happens. At least in filming world and in not theater, you get to do a few more retakes. So, Paul.
Yes.
If you would like to give people a little brief introduction to who you are.
Brief. So my name is Paul McDonnell, and I have always wanted to create characters, creatures, environments. I've always wanted to sort of fool people into believing something comes real, or that there's life in it. And I've made puppets, monsters, all that sort of stuff for years. I teach in IUDT as well. Yeah, that's where we met.
Yeah. And it has been a crazy journey from the beginning to the very end.
For you or me?
Both. I hope and I think.
Yeah, I still remember when I met you.
You do? When was that? That was in first year.
That was in first year, yeah.
We didn't meet for portfolio.
No, we didn't. No.
So how is it, actually, that's a really interesting question. How is it to see me go from the first year to seeing me now?
Well, it's an interesting thing to see anybody, really, in first year. And when we met, I did a lot of teaching in first year. Most of my teaching was in first year. And what you sort of find is people that come in don't know what they're doing. They haven't fully figured out some people know what they want to do. I always wanted to do this. Never thought I'd end up teaching, but I always wanted to do what I've ended up doing. But people don't necessarily have that, and most people don't actually. And when you would think they do come to art college, but they don't. And or that there is literally you're young, you're going to college. There's all sorts of stuff that you have to combat and get over. You're growing as a person, and first year is huge. It's scary as bejesus. Then you have to meet somebody like me. But what's lovely is seeing people become themselves. You see people growing and coming into themselves. It's a beautiful thing. It really is a beautiful thing, and it's a gift that you sort of forget about as a teacher because or a lecturer, whatever the hell you want, mentor, whatever you want to call it. But you sort of forget about that, and then you meet people and they've gone through their journey. They've developed, they've grown, and it's the same, but not. It's moved on. It's great. I love it.
And so in that way, the role of the teacher becomes really present, and how you're not really molding the person because you're just providing the framework and the opportunity for them to grow into who they are. But can you speak a bit into being that mentor and believing in people's crazy ideas? Because that's what you were for me. You always, no matter what I brought to the table, you might, say, well, that's crazy.
Okay.
But
see, you've just talked about your, people's journey as well. I've had a journey too. And I remember, and it still haunts me to today. You said that I would say, say yes to the crazy idea, or I would go with the crazy idea. I didn't always do that. There's a long time. This is about 20 years ago, easily, I'd say, and I didn't. And I sort of looked at somebody, and they had a dream, and they wanted to achieve something, and I said that's not possible. They did actually do that, and I had to look back on that, and I said, as a mentor, as a teacher, and I said, that was awful. Awful to do something like that. I think that's the first thing that you have to understand when you're in that job, that you have a huge amount of power, real power, and you can crush somebody, or you could actually gift them a yes. Let's fucking do something mad. Why not? And I have to say, the reason I think is because I never got that, ever got that, and I suppose I was putting on that person my experience. Then I looked at that and I said, well, that's not cool. That's not how I want to be remembered. So I changed, and I basically was going, okay, and it's very simple. Because all you have to do is say, okay. If somebody
you
comes
don't have
to
to
you,
do anything,
right? You just have to decide, okay, the next thing that somebody comes to me and say, I want to be an astronaut, I say, great. What do we do about it? How do we do it? And let's fucking do it. Why not? And I suppose when I started out, I knew I wanted to do this, but everybody told me no. This is crazy. Do business studies. Could you imagine me fucking doing business studies? But
I think you would find a way to make business studies creative.
Well, I do. The workshops I do, or the stuff I've been a business person too, but it's always been in the creative world. And that's a difficult one to mash business with creative.
How did you find that?
Well, I found it very difficult.
Yeah.
I found it very difficult because business is in a certain way can be cutthroat, and in business. You sort of have you don't have to do this, but it is very easy to step or fall into that space of using somebody to get forward in business. Creativity, true creativity, is not stepping on somebody's shoulders. It's like giving somebody a hug.
Yeah.
And moving with them. Whereas I didn't like that, so I left. Completely, I started a company and left it because it bothered me so much, and I was very stressed. So I left all of that, and like I suppose with what we're talking about is, or even the people who are possibly going to look at this, the term working on yourself. I've done a lot of that because I've had to. So I suppose the way I treat people or the way I teach people is always the way I wanted it, but never could have. Or in business, I do it now the way I would have liked to have been treated, or the way I'd like to do it, and that's literally, I will go to my grave now doing that. But literally, it was just a flick of a switch and the decision to just do it.
But it's really beautiful because you're not taking out the element of failure. Whereas I feel in the creative process, a lot of people are trying to achieve that element of perfection. Only when I do XYZ can I teach. Only when XYZ can I share my course or my creativity or my art piece. But you're talking about your own unfolding in that process of teaching and becoming a teacher and a mentor and even a business maker.
But everybody thinks right now, when you're a successful business person, or you're call me successful or not successful, but being a mentor or a teacher now, what a first year or a person who's meeting me for the first time, what they don't realize is I'm teaching near on 22 years. But I've always taught in a weird way, with doing certain things. But officially, 22 years. But what they don't know is, what can relate to, is that for years I would go on a bus to get to IEDT. And every day when I was on that bus, I said, this is going to be the day. This is absolute. I was convinced. No, I'd be on the bus about 6 o'clock in the morning. So I was like, and when you're tired or you're just waking up and this fecker inside your head won't shut up. And I said, this is the day that they're going to find out that I'm a complete fraud and that I haven't got an absolute clue what I am doing. So I know what it's like to be in that chair. So I know when people come in, they're afraid, some petrified, or just confused, or aren't comfortable in where they are. And I think more than anything, that's my job, is to make them comfortable to be where they are. So a lot of it's not teaching. A lot of it is actually listening. And to be honest, I think 90% of it is giving a shit.
Yeah.
If you actually care,
and it doesn't take that much to care.
It doesn't actually take anything, because like, you know me, I go from one place to another, walking all over the place to get, literally go whenever. And I can't go to the toilet with somebody ask me a question. Or I would see somebody and I know what it feels like to be depressed. I know what it feels like to be annoyed, or angry, or I know when somebody, it's a weird radar. I have been sick, so I know when somebody, I'm looking at somebody and say, something up. I can't say most people, but a lot of people would not stop and say, "Are you okay?" I have no problem with doing that. Again,
that's the secret
I would have
key,
loved if somebody did that for me. But again, it's so easy to do. Are you okay? And most of the time, people will say, "Yeah, I'm good." But you know what? It make their day just that little bit better that somebody gave a shit. Or they go, "No, I'm not." And I say, "I know. Let's have a chat." And literally, we can walk around the college, or I can walk and I go to the toilet, and you can figure out, or maybe not solve the problem, but wrap them back together again and say, "There you go, you're grand," for a little bit longer. So that's mostly what teaching is for me.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's a lovely way of, sharing your gift and uplifting people because it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
And trying to weave those little places in your day-to-day life where you can be an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
You can be grumpy.
Yep.
You can be angry.
Yep.
But most of the time, you're choosing not to do that.
I'm all of the above.
Yeah.
I'm all of the above. I can be, we did years ago, this is long ago, and we did, that we would do shows. Yeah, we've done shows together. But this particular show, it was a live show, as you would know, and it was going to be in the National Museum in Dublin. And that put it scared the crap out of people, and they'd never performed before. So I understood that. So I said, okay. Anybody was they're nervous or they didn't want to perform. So I said, I'll be part of the gig. So I made a tit of myself, so they could do that too. So they felt comfortable, but I was rolled as the hedgehog. And they thought this was absolutely brilliant because it was a perfect analogy of my my personality. Spiky on the outside, but really soft in the middle. So I have a loud bark, but my bite, I have no bite at all.
But you're speaking to something really important here, that first of all, you're giving permission for other people to have all of their feelings.
Yep.
Second of all, to have giving them permission to be weird.
Yeah, we're all weird.
And also providing that element of safety and being seen.
We're not weird, by the way.
But do you know the origin of the word weird?
No,
actually?
What is it?
I think it's wise.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, yeah, brilliant. Because I don't think, I love talking to people who are completely on a different plane. Now, a lot of people say, they're weird. But no, for me, that's gold, because that allows us to go to other places that other people wouldn't go to. And sure, that's Netflix all over. You know, that's cinema, that's theatre. All these weirdos that you call weirdos are the ones that are fucking creating all this stuff. It's gas that's the name on it.
And also, hanging out with the weirdos allows you to almost go into that other dimension that they're in.
Well, it's your tribe actually. It's the weirdos are your tribe. So you've found these bunch of people that you can be comfortable with. Once you're comfortable and you've created that place that you're happy, secure. Once that happens, and that's what I like to be able to do in the classroom, is once you've achieved an atmosphere of safety, or that you're allowed to come up with the craziest idea. Well, that is there's no cap on that, because once you've achieved that,
it's not a box.
It's not a box.
Yeah.
It's not. There is no box. But a lot of people do start off in a box. But once you sort of, and that's a lot of my job is breaking down those walls actually. And I purposely do things the very first day that anybody would meet me. I've done it for years. I will never stop doing it. And I did it with first years. I always do it with first years. And I come into the room and they've talked to everybody else, and everybody else is their own way of teaching. I'm not that. And I walk into the room and there's 60 people there. And I'm looking at them, and they're all looking at the wall, or their phone, or the phone, absolutely, but they're not looking at each other. So there's a series of exercises I do with people, and they purposely have to look at people. And then they also get used to the space. It's a desk, it's a chair. We sit at the desk. So the next exercise, we get rid of all of that crap. So there's the boundaries, or the so-called rules. Just get rid of them, and then we can do anything then. And when you do that with people, what you find within one day, within an afternoon or a morning, people who never knew each other, scared out of their mind of each other, can't shut them up. Then you're ready to make gold.
Yeah, and it's that life force energy that if you have the ground,
you feel it.
Everything grows if it's a healthy, nourished soil.
Yeah.
And in that sense, like, okay, if you had to sum up creativity or give a phrase of what creativity is to you, what would you say? No pressure.
Jesus Christ almighty.
It's a tough one, right?
It is and it isn't. Creativity. Creativity, to me, we've just talked about it. What it is to me is a space or a place that you can go to. That could be college, that could be a bathroom, wherever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it's somewhere that you can go to, and you know that when you go there, you can be you. And it's safe, and there's no judgment, and whatever idea that you come up with is not going to be shot down, but be built upon and grown. So creativity, I think, actually it's weird because I did a thesis on this, and that is sort of the space that you can establish for creativity. But what's her name?
What's the title?
Elizabeth Gilbert is this lady. The title of my thesis, it was boring. It was education in the 21st century, like it was crap. I didn't know what to call it, so I called it that, boring. But what I did do was it was about creativity, and they were like, and you're talking going back generations, because people have always have been fascinated about creativity. What is it? How do you achieve it? How do you switch it on? Because the fecker doesn't switch on when you want it to switch on. And there are loads of people out there who've talked about this. One is John Cleese, brilliant talk that he does about creativity. And the way he talks about it is that there's this repetition that you go into this space, this place, that he feels comfortable, and that there is a routine that is established. Rodal was the same thing. He would walk through his rose bushes, sitting down in this little shed in his chair, every single day. There was a routine, and some days things would come to them, some days wouldn't. But what they talked about is it was their job to turn up. It was creativity's job to turn up when it felt like it. But if they didn't turn up, then it just went on, it just went on to the next person. But there was another lovely one that Elizabeth Gilbert talks about it, and she wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And the way she talks about creativity is that because when she wrote Eat, Pray, Love, it was an overnight success, like bananas stuff, right? And then she was going, how do I do the next one? No pressure.
In that same way.
Yeah, and to be that successful. So she started looking into creativity, and I thought it was brilliant because when you look at artists and the history of artists throughout the world, the artists have one of the highest suicide rates.
Wow.
Why? And she talked about that with regard to herself. She was very honest, and it was that we look upon it that the creativity is it's theirs. But then she looked back in history, and you have civilizations that did not look at it as part of you. They looked at it as it comes to you. And the Greeks, it was something that lived in the walls that would turn up. Again, what John Cleese is talking about. If you're not there, he'll bugger off. And if something was crap, it's not just your fault. He was crap that day. So it's not just you. So there's not this blame on you. So there's sort of a release on that, and it's not all about you. That it's some fuzzy thing that's out there.
That's actually what creativity is to me. It's this, life force energy within me where I can create and make things, and I get the energy to do it, and I can spend it on that creative thing or not.
Yeah.
And usually if I don't,
but how does it happen?
Bad things happen.
But how does it happen though?
It comes to me, right?
No, but it doesn't come to you. It just come to you. Is it out walking, or have you decided to do something?
Actually, this is strange because sometimes I might be in meditation and an idea will come to me.
Yeah.
Or I might be in the middle of cooking and an idea will come to me. So I don't necessarily have that space where I go to it every day, but I'm listening all the time.
Yeah. So you've put like when you're doing the dishes. So it's an act that is sort of repetitive. So therefore your mind can sort of switch off, but allowed to go somewhere else. Same with walking. Same with meditation. Mine.
Dancing.
Oh, totally. It's something that your body does its thing, and your brain can then switch off and go, oh, it's fine, and can do its thing. What I always did, used to do this in RT. We would work really hard, so and no time for thinking. It was always doing. I'd fly kites. If you don't concentrate on the kite, it crashes. Whereas when you do that, weirdly, it's like meditation because you zone out and you start going off on things.
I tried to do it recently and I failed, of course, but I had so much joy in me trying something new and failing. But when it did fly for those like few seconds, it felt so hypnotic.
You said fail. I would look at it differently. Because I know what it's like, but a fail it's not a fail. What it is the kite needs to be adjusted, or that when I pull left, it goes left. If I pull really hard, it goes really quickly. But those things are learning, and I think I'm convinced of this that our language needs to change. Because failure or I did it wrong, that is something that is from it's a language that has been embedded with us since the late 1800s. And believe it or not, that's part of my thesis as well, that education today is still the model that we adapted for when the Industrial Revolution kicked in. Yeah. Wow. And the reason why that was created. Very simply, very simply. It's very clever, actually. And you can understand it for that time. This is 1890. It's not yesterday. And what it was they had to educate people to work, to create and work with the tools they had of that time. But we're still doing it. We're still doing that. And I think it's really interesting that when government talk about stuff like this, or big business, innovation comes in, right?
It's a big word.
It feels like it's 20 letters long. But the innovation, they look at it, I think, from a money perspective. How do we make the next big money product? Whereas if innovation to me is looking at the world in a completely different way, but allowed to have the space to create something that people need or would like. But if you put a deadline on not with a deadline or not with money. But if you look at that one, go to Jobs. Is that his name?
Steve Jobs.
Apple. Yeah. No, he had a belief. No, we can talk about the personality, blah blah blah, whatever. But back when he had a belief that he could create this computer, nobody else did. But he did. No, my phone is Apple. No. Actually, we were literally talking about this today. That happens a lot to me. Is that people come to me with mad ideas. We call them mad ideas. Let's call them just ideas. And something that hasn't happened before. Something that hasn't happened before. Usually, the reaction of most people to something that hasn't happened before is, and this, I did another thesis, goes back to caveman period. When something is not normal, or we run away from it, or we're scared of it. Let's look at it slightly differently. If you are looking at somebody and they've got a pale, they look odd. They look different. They could be sick. This is like real simple levels. They could be sick, so therefore we step away from them.
They're different.
They're different. So we do not interact. This is at a sub level. It's literally in your brain. You don't know it. And when you tell somebody something that is completely out of their wheelhouse, that they don't understand, a lot of the reaction is based on a fear level. Primal. I don't understand it, don't like it, run away. And so there's a negative connotation. Whereas what I've learned to do, it hasn't always been with me, is to just run with it a little bit and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? No. To allow an idea to grow. And I think that's a beautiful lesson for life as well, that you're saying yes to more things rather than saying no, because no keeps you in this box of, no,
it's okay
afraid.
If you want to be in the box.
Yeah.
It's okay if you're comfortable there. We all don't have to. Yeah. If you're happy here, I know loads of people who love living in the box. And I'm going, who am I to say any different? But what's interesting about the no is there's two examples. One is Chuck Jones. You know who Chuck Jones is? No. Chuck Jones he was a director. He's passed away since. He's the director of Looney Tunes.
Oh yeah.
Bugs Bunny. And they were on a mental, absolutely bananas schedule that they would have 1 week to come up with the idea. That had to be sorted out, scripted, everything, so it could go down onto the animation line. 1 week. They come up, like bonkery stuff.
Stress.
No, yeah, exactly. No pressure. But what they did was this. Now, how many Looney Tunes? There's hundreds of them.
I don't even know.
Yeah. But I don't know either. But we know there's loads of them.
Yes.
So his idea was this. It's very simple. That everybody in the production would be there on a Monday morning for a session. And this session was called the Yes Sessions. And what they had to do was come up with the idea in that session. And there was one rule. you are not allowed to say anything negative about any idea that comes up in that room, right? So what they found was, after one day of no negative, just pluses, and if you didn't have anything positive to say, you said nothing. It might not have been the best idea, but you had a kernel of something that you could work with. And look at it, some of the best things are, like, it's just magic what they've done. But what he found was, even the most negative person in the room got so pissed off with not being able to say anything, you had to say something positive. But that created a safe space.
Wow.
So it's the same thing again. It's exactly the same thing again.
That's amazing, because with saying no, you would have taken away that opportunity to run with it.
Okay, run with it. That's another good one. Go back to when you were a kid. Go right back to when you were a kid. There's no kid that I know of, and I was definitely one at one stage. I know it doesn't look like it, but doctors and nurses. Do you remember that? Or being an astronaut. We all have done this, and we fantasized and we played.
I wanted to be a vet.
You wanted to be a vet, cool. But what we would do, and we did it very well, was that through play, we would invent animals for the veterinarian. You'd have all, and you might not have the instruments, but you either made them, or there was a block of Lego that was whatever. But what's interesting about that is that, let's say I want to play doctors and nurses. So I come to you, I'm 6, and I say, do you want to play doctors and nurses? And you say no. What happens? Nothing. Whereas if you just said, yeah, let's go. You have a whole afternoon or morning of making a whole world.
I can already see the brain like firing and wiring and just like sparking
from
up
one
from
word.
That one thing, yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like the role of the artist sometimes is being that shapeshifter and allowing yourself to drop into various different personas and allowing that change.
You say persona. Like, I don't have personas. I am me. I unapologetically. No, I'm 50. So I'm comfortable in my skin now. I wasn't always comfortable in my skin. I'd say up to my 40s, I probably wasn't comfortable in my skin. But now I am 100%. I am who I am. I talk the way I talk. I have a filthy mouth on me. It's never going to change. I will tell you exactly what I think in my head. But I am comfortable with myself. So call it persona. But I am truthful to myself. And I think that is... I did a master's in fine art. Very different for me. In that I usually am working with a team of people and given the idea or the script, and we work from that. So that's very much like my Bible, and I know what I'm doing. Whereas when I did the masters, I had no script.
Oh my gosh! When I studied fine art, this was before the SS, right? It broke my head.
Oh, why?
Bit by bit, because I was forced all of a sudden to come out of my box.
Yeah.
And to start thinking in a completely new way.
Yeah.
And my lecturers, they were intentionally challenging me and being like, why are you doing it this way? And I would...
But the why is not a bad question.
Yeah.
The why is a good question.
It's a great question, but
you have to...
Your reaction to that question can be very visceral.
It can bring the why can bring bad stuff up. It's not a bad question.
No,
it's a great question, and but you have to answer to why. You have to be in a comfortable place to answer to why. Now, one word, an advice I heard, because I was going to quit, and I was going, what am I doing here? Like, don't this doesn't make sense. And a lecturer came in, and the only thing he showed us his stuff, and I didn't really understand it. But no, I could appreciate. I could appreciate. I didn't understand it, but I could appreciate. And I said to myself, if you're going to do this, don't muck around, do it, and be open mind. Don't close your mind. Be open to it. I couldn't understand it. I thought this is bonkery stuff, but I was open to it. I decided to do that, and you have that choice to do that or not. But
moment to moment, every time.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, that's a minute decision. That's a daily getting out of your bed decision. But what he said was, as an artist, be true to yourself. So if you feel that something's going wrong or it's not going in the right direction, that's being true to yourself. If you are being told that it's wrong, or that it should go somewhere else, but you feel it should be going somewhere else, but you don't do that, then you're not being true to yourself. Once he told me that, I said, okay, fuck it, let's just do what I want to do. But that allowed me then to get over the hump of worrying about stuff, thinking about what other people would think, and just do it and say, fuck it, let's just do it and see where it could bring me. So that was brilliant advice. Be true to yourself, always. And that's what I've always done. And it gets me in an awful lot of trouble.
But you have to take that risk, otherwise you're just living a life where you're
living a lie. Yeah, because you have to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
But being true to yourself for me, has got me in awful trouble. I've lost lots of friends. I don't think I'm honest is what I am. I can't be dishonest. No, sorry, I was. But at this stage, to be true to myself, I have to be honest. And I think people appreciate that if you're honest, from a place of honesty, when you're giving them feedback about work. And
a place of vulnerability.
Oh,
not
totally.
Trying to
No, totally.
hurt someone else.
Oh,
There's
no,
a
it's not about hurting.
difference,
It's not about hurting. Feedback's a funny one. Like a grade. What the fuck? What's a grade? It's a letter. Whereas it's actually in the discussion, in the talk of the work, and asking the questions why. That's where it's at, and having feedback. And I think literally I get phone calls all the time or messages from students, ex-students, all the time. My wife's looking at me going, "What are you doing now?" I said, "I'm just talking to me, texting somebody." And it's very much and that mentor sort of comes into that, is trying to put people on that path, and that path of security. But you don't tell somebody negative stuff without telling them something positive. So therefore, you don't tell somebody, that's not good, I wouldn't do that, without giving them what I like to call it is a rung on the ladder or a stepping stone. Because that's not feedback. That's just putting somebody in the boots. And
it's still only your opinion.
Oh God, yeah. Oh no, it's my no, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I always say to students, is that or anybody that I teach, that whether it's in college or students of life, is the
students for life.
Yeah, big time. I am one. I never want to stop learning. But there's vulnerability on both people, right? There's vulnerability on my part that I'm going to listen. Now, what I have learned, people might see me doing this sometimes. So all that is that I am listening, but there's a bit of a force field, because your shit is your shit. My shit's my shit. Sometimes I might share it with you, but the role in a college is different, so I have to protect myself. But you listen, and you give them feedback that is positive and negative, possibly. But you talk about the work, but you have to be honest. And if you're not honest about it, and I think people pick up on that, if you're not completely 100% honest, people can see right through you. And I suppose that's what people come to me a lot, is because I will be honest. Do you like this, Paul? Does it bloody matter if I like it or not? What do you want to know? Can I improve it? And I said, well, I do this or I do that. But it's always an additive process, whereas a lot of people look at feedback or working with somebody in a creative way as chipping negatively. And I'm going, no, I don't like that. Never like that. Never like that.
Yeah, and there's a tendency in the creative world to actually look at things from the perspective of, or being in environments where everything crumbles you until you're, you know, just skin and bones, right? Where there's nothing left of your idea. You think you're shit.
Oh, everybody thinks they're shit. Everybody thinks they're shit.
But can we create more structures and more environments where we can, you know,
well, okay,
grow?
why do we feel like shit? Why do we use the word failure? Why is there a negative connotation on the process of creativity? Is that when you so-called make a mistake, that is a negative thing? No, when you make sorry, my father, right? He had a phrase, and it'll never leave me. Experience is what you get when you don't get what you're looking for. Now, what that means is you're trying to solve a problem. That's what creativity really is in my head. You're trying to solve this problem, and some things just won't work. Some things do, so that it opens up a little bit, and then, oh, cool. And then you can open it up a little bit more. So it's like a puzzle to me. But if you don't get what you're looking for, if you don't get the answer to that puzzle, what you get is experience, not a failure. So if you look at it like that, it's very different.
You might get a puzzle for something else.
Oh, right? Totally. No, this thing, I have loads of them. When people come to me about a problem, usually I know the answer, not because I know the answer, because I made a mistake. I've done the opposite. I go, oh, don't do that. Do this. The reason why I know that is because I did all those. I learned from those things. But it's our language that has to change.
And
it really does.
And also the environments we have around us, because most people, I would say, don't have that space for themselves to be playful, to have freedom, to be creative, to fail or not fail, to put on something
but even
else.
that, you said that, right? Have we another word for it? We don't. So that's what I mean. We need new language for describing our process. Yes, and not all people have a space. But that's not 100% true, because you just told me that when you feel comfortable about being inspired by something is washing dishes.
Yeah.
Going for a walk, me flying a kite. There's another poet, I forget her name, but this is a brilliant story. I forget her name. And basically she describes creativity. She writes poems. Did I say that? She's a poet. Yes. Poets write poems. Did you know that?
Poets?
Yeah, poets write poems. So
about poetry?
Maybe. She describes her process like this, that she feels it like, like a tumbleweed. You know tumbleweed, the way it goes around in the wind. So imagine that going across the landscape towards her house. And she can feel it. It's coming. She has to be, and go back to Rodal, go back to John Cleese, in the place to be able to accept this coming to her. So when she feels it coming on, she'll get a notepad, she'll get a pen, and then she describes that it comes into her. She writes, and then she feels it leave. So that's a weird one, isn't it? Because we're not creative all the time.
Yeah.
Something comes to us, but then it goes. Which is what Elizabeth Gilbert talks about. It is other, it is separate, which is good in a way, because it's not just all my responsibility when it goes up tits up. But she describes a different occasion when she's out in gardening, and she can feel it rumbling over the hill, and it's coming towards her, and she goes, oh crap, I've no pen, I've no pencil. Yeah, she's out in the garden. So she starts running towards the house, feels this going across the landscape, and feels she's literally going through the door, and it comes into her, and she's feeling it go out of her, but she gets the pencil and she draws it back in. When she read it backwards, when she read it back to herself over it, it was backwards. So the words were completely backwards. But this is the way so
Oh.
she's pulling it back into
Yeah.
herself, and all the words were backwards. Now that's weird voodoo crap. But so is, you know, thinking that there's this spirit. Actually, what do you call it? I don't know where they're from, but it was a tribe, and when people might call creativity a spirit, or people might, or it's this fuzzy God thing if you believe in God. I don't say that as a negative thing. I don't. I think if people believe more on themselves rather than something outside, it'd be a better world. But
and at the end of the day, it's more words, and people have ideas about them.
No, exactly. But
and we're usually talking about the same thing.
Oh no, we're nearly always talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But they would see around a campfire. There'd be a celebration, and people would dance. And but one person at that time would transcend, and it would become something other. And what they called that, and when they would see that happening, they would say "Hola."
Hola.
Hola. And that was their word for seeing creativity, or this energy came in, and they could recognize it, called it for what it was, then it would leave. But they understood it. We don't understand it. And I think a bad thing is that we consider it is our creativity. Whereas
and it will always be
it was in here.
Yeah.
Whereas if we sort of let that go and allow this little goblin in the wall to come to you, it's a lot healthier.
I don't know about those goblins.
No, whatever it is.
I like to think of it as a river, you know, and you're, you know, either in flow and you're coming out of it, or you're dancing in the river. But
yes,
I like the goblin.
Yes, yes, but
but
a river, a river. You're going into the river, but the river's not you.
Yeah,
it's something else. So you're choosing to go in there, and it's that which is feeding you energy, thoughts, whatever. It is other. It's not 100% you.
But at the same time, I believe that you can also take on the river and imagine yourself as the river also. So in practices like ecstatic dance, you can literally take on the archetype of the river.
But totally. But you might not be able to do that when catching the bus.
Yes.
You know, you can't not necessarily do that.
Well.
It might work. Well, you never know. Actually, there's an interesting one. Who did this then? There's a design company called IDEO, and most people don't even know who they are, but have created a lot of stuff that we would use today, but don't even know who they are. And what they describe, Tim, I think it's Tim Brown, he describes sort of play, and that there is play, and then there is constructive play. So play is when we're just playing and enjoying the moment, but then there's constructive play, and the constructive play is playing with that energy in a constructive drawing, coming up with an idea, working with it, that it's not all, you know, just the enjoyment of being there. That's not a bad thing, but a constructive play, you need both. Yeah. You can't, and the thing is, you can't live in both all the time. If you were playing all the time, nothing would happen. If you were here, you burn yourself out. So you know.
Yeah, finding that happy balance, because we've both had experiences in life where we've completely burnt out and touched the darkest of holes in the ground and had to come out of them again. So perhaps speaking about that balance again, and the importance of putting yourself first in the creative process. Sometimes.
Well, if you don't put yourself first, what do you do? So is that a bad thing to put yourself first? What do you mean
No.
put yourself first?
I mean, sometimes it's good to allow the creative process to be what it is without taking yourself out of it. But for most of the time, that also comes at a price. And when people don't know the difference between those two things, they sacrifice themselves for the creative process rather than touching that discomfort. Do you know what I mean?
I do. What do you want me to answer? Go back to when people,
putting yourself first.
Yeah, putting yourself first, right? When people
and finding the balance.
Balance, okay, balance. I think, like when most people meet me, to see what's on the outside. That's where everybody is. You know, people don't know all the crap that's in my head, and I think what makes a really good teacher is that I have a lot of empathy, and empathy is experience. And I've had a lot of experience with lots of different things, and I usually say dark things. I have lots of experience with probably more dark things than most people have in their lifetime, and I have loads of them. So, and I know what it's like to be on death's door. I know what it's like to be with people who's on death's door. I know what it's like to, when you were saying about burnout and keeping a balance. So I know what it's like to have a mental breakdown. I know what it's like to be in a psychological ward with people who, I was going to use the word crazy, but I shouldn't use that word. But I know what it's like to be in a place that everybody in the institution is having mental issues. We're not very good as a world or a country or a medical system dealing with that thing. And what they decide to do is put you on drugs. Whereas talking is a really good thing. So I understand a lot of dark crap. And I suppose that could make me really fucking bitter. But what I've tried to do is, and this is part of balance, what I've tried to do is, it's like Batman. You know, Batman is a dark motherfucker, but he uses that as part of, for good. But he's still a dark fucker. It's still there.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't go away. And I have that too. But I've worked on myself. And it allows me then to be able to connect with people very quickly at a either a deeper level or but not it's not superficial. And some people think it's a bad habit, especially students, because they say, why am I always crying around you? And it's not usually in a bad way. It's usually because I asked the question. Actually, the question.
Safety.
Well, they feel safe that they can, that they actually can
even
cry.
Even their nervous system feels safe without them actually realizing, right?
Oh, well, yeah. It is. There's things that's going on that we cannot see.
So many
things that we can't see. And why do you feel comfortable with somebody? Why do you tell somebody something? Because there's something going on that we don't really know about. So I think people know that I will listen, because I've decided to listen. But they also, there's nothing that I haven't heard of.
And you also had to listen to yourself first.
Well, that's the ultimate thing, is that I know what it's like to be in a dark place. I know what it's like to have thoughts of, I'm done, I'm out of here.
Do you still get those thoughts?
No. But we're talking about suicide.
Or suicide, depression, or just...
Well, suicide's...
Those big, heavy
things. Suicide is a real good fucking road to depression. Depression is a really good road to suicide. But before depression, anxiety is a really good road to depression, and then it goes rolling down. And I have had multiple people come to me and say the word suicide is a very, very taboo word. You're not allowed to say that word. Whereas there's lots of ways that you sort of skirt around it. And I've talked to so many people, oh my God, especially students. Well, I talk to students all the time. So it would be mostly students, but not just students. It's just giving a shit and saying, "Are you okay?" I have had conversations about what they're actually thinking. I'm not a counsellor. I never would say that I am one, but I do have a duty of care. So I know people who I've pulled off the brink, who were literally going. That to me is a gift. And everybody can have this. Now that's an extreme, stopping somebody from doing something like that. But on a literally everyday thing, like I said to people going, "Are you all right?" I'll see it in their eye, and I've had in their posture, right? And I don't know these people, and we could have a 5-minute conversation, and they're happy out. You know what? It's made my day. It's made their day.
Do you think it's because you've had to be the person who creates those characters that you're also able, as an additional layer to your own experience, also able to see it in the other person? So see their gestures.
Totally, because I know I felt it. So that there's true empathy there. I can see it in somebody's eyes. And a gift, course.
You make
mad
it a gift.
Shit.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I do. But I could ignore it. But I think. But you see, what's the weird thing, right? We've gone on to mental health. But mental health is 100% wrapped around creativity. And a lot of people who are creative can have bad mental health because they're not good enough, because they're going to be judged. Why?
Because the pressure from the outside is too big.
Well, totally. And I understand that too.
It's overwhelming.
No, I understand that too. So I understand what it's like to have a nervous breakdown. I've had one. I completely understand what that is. And to get out of that, you have to work. And it's not nice. You have to work on yourself to do that. But what I find really fascinating about it is that with mental health, it's the nemesis to creativity. It's like good and evil, because if you have bad mental health, it's very difficult to do this, because that sense of play or that sense of comfort, it's very hard if you're low, depressed, or anxious. I know one of the best whistle players in the world. Can't go on stage.
Wow.
Used to, can't do it anymore. Do it around the house. Do it with close friends, but can't do it in front of the stage because just anxiety kicks in. And I see that all the time. And I'd say 90% of my job is actually picking people off the floor, wiping them off mentally, and then putting them back on their path. That to me is creativity, because if you haven't got that
you're nurturing
space,
the creative life force. You're nurturing the life force within somebody else.
Literally, they don't get it at the time, but I can see them go away and come back, and their eyes are lit back up again. I go, cool. I know my job. I don't have to worry about this. I know my job. I've done my job right. When the place is noisy and messy, and people don't want to leave.
Well, you would always complain about my chaos.
Oh, I know. I always complain about everybody's chaos. But if there's no chaos, then nothing is happening. Whereas, no, I never complained about your chaos. You always had one of the best. You've always had one of the best and most inspiring sketchbooks that I've ever seen. And you could call it messy or whatever you want to call it. But what I saw was no fear and just delving into solving the problem or what we were trying to solve.
Page,
yeah, on the page. Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I feel like this is my gift in life, alchemizing my pain and my depression into creativity. And it's such a unique space because you've mentioned that it's difficult to create from that dark place.
it's nearly impossible.
To
Well, for me it is.
Yeah, to merge those two together. But at the same time, I found this is what got me out of those places.
What?
The creativity. And
but okay, but you're talking as if it got you out. But there is a stage when you're down low.
Yeah.
That and creativity is up here, and you're going, how the hell? It's not even.
Absolutely.
I don't even at that stage when you're down low, you don't even know how to get back up there. That's where you need to start talking to yourself. You need to start talking to people. And it's not about this. It's about like creativity. Actually, if you really, really think about it, your mental health, without it, this is not going to happen. To be honest, it can, but I would rather be the happy artist rather than the depressed artist
tough.
that is going loopy.
It's deciding, and also for me, it's been a journey of detaching myself from those dark suffering states and understanding that I can also find that nourishment and creativity or inspiration for my art without having to go all the way down to the ground every single time.
Yeah, but if you've gone down to the ground, what you've not done is talk to somebody and said, I'm not great today, or having a bad day. There are ways, and that's there are ways, but the lovely thing about that is I know there are ways. So when you're meeting somebody like that in a hallway, and you go and you can see that they're gone down there. I know that we can get back up. I didn't say it would be easy to get back up, but I know that you can. Yes, tools are brilliant. And they're different from people to people, so you have to find your own tools with that.
So there's this element of freedom and play again. You have to try and fail a few times.
Figure out what's good for you.
I like this. I don't really like this. This works. This doesn't work.
Yep. And everybody's different. Everybody's different.
And I loved how you were speaking about creativity and how it's this, spirit that almost comes over you. But we've, between us, always spoke about it as the liminal space and being able to almost be in that space in between worlds where you're in reality, but you're one foot in the other, in that otherness.
Yeah, but that between. And you're very comfortable there.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't. And what's liminal space?
So to me, I would understand liminal space as that space in between spaces, the kind of
nothing,
the nothingness, the void, the space in between breaths, the inhale and the exhale.
Yeah, but what you just said there is I could equally put in other words on it that other people will put on it as the abyss, as in nothingness, or if you go back far enough, it's your box. You do not want to come outside that box because there are no rules. There is you said nothing, but it's not nothing. It's actually not nothing.
Yeah.
And what?
But nothingness is scary.
So nothing is completely scary. It's terrifying.
Because it's everything.
Because exactly. So when you say it is not nothing, it is actually everything. And it's like as simple as this. You have a blank notebook, sketchpad, and students at the beginning, it's the language in itself. But one of the scariest things is looking at a blank piece of paper.
Or taking the first step to make a mark.
Oh, totally. Yeah, but that's not the scary bit. Scary bit is that blank space, that liminal void. But it's not a void. It's not a void. It's like a lump of clay as well. And what I usually do with somebody who's sculpting something is because they're scared, stiff of making a mistake, I come over and go, I put a line through it.
It's so fun.
It is so fun.
One of my favorite things is destroying things.
Yeah. Literally, you said that one of the scariest things is mark. Why? Just fucking mark it.
Yeah, but at the same time, there's such a in my head, it was always this avenue for failure.
And
That
then
you could make the wrong mark.
Yes, but if you don't make the mark,
then
there's no mark.
Yeah, the page remains empty.
You are creating your own fear of the void. Whereas if you just let fuck it, jump into the void, then it's actually all in there. But what people don't do very well is they just don't go in there, and what they do is they start thinking in their head. And I said, that's a good thing, but it has to come out of your head. Now, put on paper. Exactly. Put on paper whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Talk to others. Problem is that if you don't have an established space that you're allowed to talk,
safe space,
and safe is not. We have this new thing. I love it. It's new. Safe to create. And with Safe to Create, what they talk about really is abuse, your language, male, female, trans, LGBT plus, all of these things that it needs to be safe. What we forgot about is within a safe place is this is important, but what is more important, not saying that this isn't important, it is important, but within a creative context, it is that you need to have a safe place
to say anything. There's nothing worse than sharing an idea with somebody. Like, you have this precious flower and you're offering it to someone, being like, this is my idea, I believe in it. And they just crush you down.
And then,
and they say no.
Yeah, totally.
That's not going to work. That's stupid.
Yeah, so, and I've done that. I've never said stupid. But I said that's not going to work. And I learned, this must be 20, 30 years ago, and I learned that that's an awful thing to do to somebody.
It physically hurts.
Oh, totally.
Like
physically, like you and literally, but a lot of people do that on purpose actually that's a thing.
Or even subconsciously because they don't know any better and they're trying to put someone else down.
If they're in a teaching scenario, they fucking should.
Yes.
Right, because it is their responsibility to be able to know. Yeah. No, we're all human. And you say I have bad days, but a creativity or an idea is a gift that can be snuffed out. What's his name? What the hell? Can't remember. One of those big Greek dudes who made lots of lovely words. But what it is creativity is it's the fanning of the flame. And it could be literally a spark. But if you don't nurture that,
very small,
really small, really small, really small, and if you don't nurture that, it can't grow into a fire. It's like a vessel that you have to fill. But a lot of us find that very difficult. Plus, we're in a world that tells us no,
and
bad idea.
That translates to life in general. Like that's the greatest gift you can give to somebody. They're offering you their love in whatever way they can, and the best thing you can do is say, "Wow, thank you."
Yeah.
Uplift
So that's why, and a lot of people. One girl came to me, a makeup student, a good few years ago, lovely person, and she got really annoyed with me. I wasn't teaching her at the time. I was not doing other stuff, normal stuff. Picked me in the corridor, probably going to the loo, or at least trying to. And she said she got really annoyed with me, because I was telling her the things that I thought she wanted to hear. And I said, "What's wrong?" This is what do you want me to tell you? And he says, "I wanted you to tell me the thing you always say." And I go, "What do I always say?" And he says, you would come up to somebody and you say, "I was thinking." and I was going, "Yeah, I do that a lot actually." I was thinking. Now, fundamentally what that means though to her is that she had a problem to solve. And what she wanted was for me to put a little bit of my energy to think about her and her problem. And to have an idea in my head is, you know what, I was thinking if you did this, that'd be really cool, wouldn't it? Now, it might not have changed, but what she wanted was somebody to listen and to put her maybe
A little spark.
just a little something. Whereas she was going around in circles, and she got really annoyed at me. She says, "Tell me what you always tell everybody."
But it's really beautiful as well, because we can't do this alone, right?
No,
when
no.
we're creating something, it's for somebody, or for somebody else's eyes, or
Totally.
for our own, witnessing.
That's what I found about our fine art to be the difficult thing, because it's from the self, whereas what I love, and I get a huge buzz even with students, is that we work together. We build on an idea, and the idea is precious, but you're not precious about it. And what I mean by that is that yes, it is precious, but if you're precious about it, you a lot of the time can be defensive, not open. So therefore,
take it personally.
your spark remains a spark. It doesn't turn into a flame because you're not allowing it to turn into a flame. Like when I've worked with loads and loads of people, and one comes to mind is Paddy Hine, and we were sculpting a big, massive head, and he was afraid of it. And I get that. I get that because it's like a blank sheet of paper.
And it's big.
And it's big. And it's big. And you're going, oh, how do I start this? And he was scared. And I says, okay, I'm going to do this, and you're going to look, and you're going to do it. But then I'm going to go over your side, and I'll play with yours, and then you're going to play with mine, and then
out of
we
context,
flip, and
that
then we
might
flip,
be taken
and then
out
we flip.
wrong.
No, but the play
Yes.
is the important one.
Yeah.
It's not about
And not
getting
being
the job
precious.
and not being precious. Yes, we have to get the job done, but I said we. And sometimes, well, now a lot of the time, I'm in a position of authority, usually a HOD. So I'm usually somebody's boss now. So people are scared out of their wits to touch what I've done. But when you allow people to work on that piece, and then you work on their piece, and then it goes into this, well, who did what? We did that. Now, at that time, probably I would say I had more experience. Better or worse sculptor, we're sculptors, but we made something beautiful together. And
unique.
Oh, totally unique. Yeah. Totally unique. And that there is one of my, what him in particular, Crom, I've said this to a few people. I had cancer in 2008, and tough, very tough. That's next door to buying your coffin, and which is weird to think about. You know, it's weird to think about your own mortality when it gets to that stage. And I had made my peace, actually. I was okay with leaving.
Do you think that was a key part of it, that you actually made peace rather than fighting to the bitter end?
Oh no, I fought. Oh no, I fought.
No, I mean,
but I accepted
the acceptance,
that
yeah.
This might not happen, and the result might be very definitive. The outcome of that was I'm still here, but and still to today, I'm in a lot of pain. That's not because of the cancer, not because of chemo or radio, it's because of the surgeries. But that's one thing. But my hands, I got neuropathy in my hands, and sometimes I still get it. And basically, it means that you can't. It's sore to hold things. So I couldn't sculpt anymore. And he was sculpted in 2014, and he was the first thing I sculpted since cancer. So there's lots of things in him that are not just a job. It's me coming back to me And what Paddy doesn't realize is that he was my rock, but he thought I was his rock. But the two of us together made him. Yeah. And to today is my most favorite character that I've ever made.
And that co-creation and collaboration, weaving together of energies, because
where's that?
With ChatGPT and new technologies coming in, that's one thing you still, at the time of this recording, you can't take it away, because somebody might fail and another person might fix it, and something new, completely unique, is born out of that. Mm-hmm. Whereas the way I see digital art at the moment, especially generated digital art, it all has a very distinct flavor that when you look at it, you know exactly that it was generated. That might change and evolve, but for now, there's that preciousness of giving your life force energy to something real and allowing that.
You know what's interesting about that? Okay. Last year? I think it was last year. I would have considered, no, 2 years ago. I would have considered myself a complete digital Luddite. But I also I wanted to completely ignore it and be happy in my dinosaur ways. And I said, one thing about me is that, well, I love learning, but I also wasn't walking my talk. I was telling other people to do the walk, but I wasn't doing it myself. And so I signed up for a digital sculpting course, and well outside my wheelhouse, and not comfortable at all. I thought about dropping out fucking every time. And I had an absolutely brilliant teacher. Sean Forsyth is his name, who's a lovely man as well. But I know what it's like to fear something, but then get over that and do it as well. But I was scared of it. Interesting thing about AI and what do you call it? What's it called?
ChatGPT.
Yeah. I went to an exhibition. A couple of weeks ago, middle of Connemara, right? And I have a different for names. I can't remember the artist, but I do remember learning about his work when I was in school. So he is one of the canons of Irish artists. But when you look at it, right, and my wife thought this was fascinating, and I said, I didn't know anything about him. She did, and it says he was in France. It says, why do you think that? It says, because he was looking at impressionist paintings. And he says he also was looking at Turner. He was also looking at Rubin, and that was influencing his work. So AI in a way is using the stuff that we have today. It can't make up stuff. It has to use of what's in the vault. And in a way, if you think about it, we don't know what's going to happen with it. We don't know that it is going to think for itself at some stage, that it's going to progress that and become other. But if you think back, we've always been influenced by the past. We've always generated stuff that is, not always, but a lot of work. People, how they start or get into is by being influenced by other people's work. And I sort of look at AI similarly. Now, I would totally agree with you that it all looks the same. Yes, for now, because it doesn't know any better. Why is it it doesn't know any better? Because it's going on what is happening in the past, and it can't think fully for itself yet. Now that's a scary bit, and that's fucking the Matrix in the making, and we'll all end up their batteries for these computers. That is scary.
Yeah, another chapter.
Another talk.
What gets you through when those dark moments come up? Or let's not call them dark. What gets you through when shit hits the fan?
What do you mean shit?
Insert whatever word you want in there. You know,
Work, life,
work,
everything,
life,
everything,
anything.
anything. What gets me through? My wife listens to me, even though I go loopy. My kids don't listen to me. No, they do, but they're teenagers, so I wouldn't necessarily include them. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they give you really, really insightful things, right? And I suppose in a nutshell, it's the people around me get me through difficult situations. And I remember my daughter, and I was very low one day. She's 4, and I'm really in pain. Pain and depression will go together 100%. But she comes over to me and says, no, she's that size, and she says, everything will be fine. Everything will be okay. That's a 4-year-old, so I'm looking at her. If you have your shit together, then I need to get my shit together. So my family are very important. I talk. I try not to keep stuff in. I've gone to counselling. I don't go to counselling anymore.
But you've got your own tools.
No, I got my tools. So I have a bag of tricks that I can pull out when I want to or need to.
What's your bag of tricks then? Like top 3 tips other than, you know,
to get out of the waller and the
You've mentioned talking.
Well, talking to somebody, not talking to yourself.
Yes.
Because sorry, I do talk to myself, and that does help me. But sometimes it's a stage that I shouldn't be the one I'm listening to, because I'm that low. So talking to other people is really important to me. Or even just knowing that I've been heard. If that happens, then usually that lifts me enough. That I can work out my own thing. I am a Capricorn, and
that's another episode.
That's another episode. But when I'm faced with loads and loads of problems, and when I'm faced with people saying that's not a good idea, or I wouldn't do that, or that's completely balubas, Paul, one thing comes into my head always is, excuse my French, fuck the begrudgers. And what that means to me is, we talked about this earlier, that I'm opening. I've opened a new studio. I've wanted to do it for years, and that will be my place that I can go to, as well as others, to create. But but on top of that, that's mental health as well. It's all the same to me. But that's what I want to do, is create that space for me, but for others as well. So there's a space that I have that I will go to, and I know that it's safe, and I can do whatever I want there, creativity wise, or just be in a space. So I have a space. I have people that I know I can talk to. People will say, if they're in a really bad place, that they have no one to talk to. Rubbish. That's not true. That there's always somebody out there that you can talk to. You just haven't found them yet. The last thing is that when I decided I wanted to do what I wanted to do, I saw Michael Jackson's Thriller, and I saw him transform into a werewolf and then a zombie, and I was going, Mother of Jesus. That's what I'm in. But I didn't. I said this to my career guidance teacher, and they said, no, I think business studies would be good for you. And I'm going, okay. I think the one thing with me is, because I've been hit, I don't mean physically, by loads of things in life, I've built up a resilience that I just do. and keep on going. And fully 100% believe if I throw enough shit at the wall, something has to stick. But I have to throw the shit at the wall. If I don't try, then and I've always tried to do that, and I'm not afraid anymore. Well, actually, that's a lie. I am, but
you keep going.
But I keep going. And I'm the sort of person that is right. I want to learn how to fly a plane, so I did. What's the obstacles there? There is none, because you open up the yellow pages at the time and go to airplanes, flight lessons, number, ring. So I suppose there's no fear in that, but there can be fear in that. But I've always been the person to, even though at times I was low, and very, very low, but I've always come back to a place, and that can take a long time, of saying, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Zip. Period. I think the one interesting thing about that is that everybody who's probably listening to this, they're listening to on a phone, or listen to it on a computer or whatever. And a lot of people, when they see stuff, like the last thing I did was La Loba. 150,000 people saw it for Mockness. And people say, how did you do that? And I says, very simply, take all the hard work out of it. And how we did it was, we decided we were going to do it. Simple as that. And phones, somebody decided they were going to do that. We're in this lovely place, and there's lights on. And Edison didn't invent the light bulb, but he invented the long-lasting light bulb. And they went through, and we'll call it mistakes, 3,000 mistakes. 3,000 mistakes. And their goal was to create a long-lasting light bulb. They did that, but they had 3,000 things they could do something else with, and they did. So there was no fear of making a mistake there. So that's I think that's ultimately where. And I'm 50 now, so
50 more to go.
100%. But ultimately, I've learned now that fuck it. If something isn't successful, on the way of trying to make it successful, I learned something else. So try not be afraid of it. I said try.
Try.
Yeah.
I mean, you can incorporate fear into the process, but do it anyway.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Fear's a good thing. But
it shows you where your edges are, where you're meeting something that's slightly.
But it's also important. So if it's something scary, it's important, or because you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, outside of your box. And I suppose that's what I've always done, is try and step outside of my box. Yeah, and I'm happy to do so now.
Yeah.
But it's not. I wasn't all the time.
It's a journey, right? So.
Yeah.
It seems like those are nice parting words, or the finisher, where we can wrap up and say that. Yeah, to keep going, to keep allowing your perspective to grow, to adapt to life, how it's meeting you, and to
don't look at life as trying to be perfect, because that is not achievable. Same at work, but what I love with that, especially in the work I do, it's the imperfections that make something real. Because that's what we are. We're imperfect. We're not the models on Instagram and the perfect life. We just are not.
It's still one angle, right?
A lopsided angle, an unreal angle.
And it takes a lot of courage to be a real, vulnerable, messy, difficult, weird human with.
But you see that there, courage, right? It sounds like when you say something like that, it sounds, oh, but I'm not courageous. I never looked at it as being courageous in anything. I just said, right, shit, wall, and let the courage be for knights on horseback. Don't worry about that crap. Just do. It's through the doing that things will happen. Through not doing, nothing happens. So don't be afraid to do.
Great. So
there's my wise words for the people.
That's a wrap.
Done. Pub.